for it. Hello, I'm Amari Jones and welcome to Caffeine TV, your daily video news brief, here to take you through 3 headline numbers in just 3 minutes, giving you a different take on everything from housing policy to the Real Housewives. The first number up today is 53 in 53 years. That's how long the United States and Cuba had a frozen diplomatic and economic relationship, a relic of the Cold War. But yesterday, President Obama announced a massive and historic thaw, declaring that both nations would establish diplomatic relations and ending as much as he could under current law the present economic embargo and travel ban, saying that he was doing all of that because our current Cuba policy was an insanity that was made before most of us were born. Those were his words, and just like that, the Yes We Can president is back. Now, at the same time that President Obama was making his announcement, President Raul Castro of Cuba was on Cuban television making his, where he praised President Obama, and the church bells began to ring out across Cuba. And all of this was facilitated by Pope Francis, who we should just start calling the Godfather. Now, in truth, the Cuba policy was always an oddity in American foreign policy. Somehow the idea is that if we choked off the Cuban economy and didn't return the phone calls of the communist government there, that communism would just fall. But all we've ended up with is with the world's second longest communist regime, but now with an impoverished population. And it's just totally not how we treated other communist governments like the Soviet Union, even when they had 20,000 nukes pointed at us. And it's not how we treat current communist governments like China or Vietnam. But all of that is about to end. But honestly, the fact that it took us 50 years to end a clearly failed foreign policy is not a reason to pat ourselves on the back. It actually just shows us how broken Washington is. The next number up today is 44 million. That's how much Sony spent on its Christmas comedy, The Interview, a movie with Seth Rogen and James Franco about an assassination plot against North Korea's current leader, Kim Jong-un. What's so Christmassy about an assassination movie anyway? But Sony won't get a chance to make that money back. That's because they pulled the movie from running at all due to bomb threats to bomb any movie theaters in which it might run. Those were made by the hashtag GOP group that we spoke about last week. Now, hashtag GOP, the government revealed yesterday, is actually the North Korean government that's furious about the movie, and now there are calls by some in the government to retaliate against the government of North Korea. But I'm not so sure about that, because in part this was Sony's fault. As we've spoken about here before, 80% of hacks and data thefts could be prevented by corporations if they just spent the money on cybersecurity, but they don't want to because it's expensive. And in this case, the malware used, apparently you can get anywhere. So this wasn't even a high level attack. And so while it may have made sense at the time that Sony made the decision to not spend money on cybersecurity because it was cheaper not to do so, given the month that they've had, that decision was clearly penny wise but pound foolish. The last number up today is 1.3 million. That's the number of people who watched the premiere of Vh1's latest reality show with black women fighting each other called Sorority Sisters, which premiered this week. Sorority Sisters follows the lives of black women in black Greek organizations like Alpha Kappa Alpha and Delta Sigma Theta. Now, there's always a backlash against reality shows like this, but the backlash against this show appears to be gaining some traction. That's because Vh1 has collided with the nearly 1 million black men and women in black Greek organizations, which contain some of the most gold-plated names in American life, like Angela Bassett and Toni Morrison and Michael Jordan. And they've organized themselves into an online community to kill the show, and it's beginning to have an impact. As the Washington Post reports yesterday, State Farm and other advertisers like Honda have pulled out from the show, so Vh1 might have to pull down this one. But the impact of this one is beginning to raise another question that I've asked here before, which is whether or not the voices of the elite matter more than everyone else. I don't know, maybe that's a reality that Vh1 could shoot.